In this tutorial, we will be using the factory pattern to display a list of books. The factory pattern is like a recipe book for creating objects. Instead of making objects directly in your code, you follow a recipe from the factory. This makes it easier to change how objects are made without having to rewrite a lot of the code. So this is the example we'll be using. So the user can select from a default list of books by clicking on the default books button, or classic books, or sci-fi books. And the functionality is achieved by using the factory pattern. Within your SwiftUI project, add a new file, Swift file, and name the file books. This will be our book struct. Select Swift file and type in books. Next thing we need to do is to create our book struct, identifiable, let ID equals to UUID, to enable each book to have a unique ID when it's being displayed within the list. Var name string var author string var image name string var price string. The next thing we need to do is to create a new class called booklist. Select Swift file as the file type, enter booklist, click on create, class book list. The purpose of the book list class is to have or hold an array of books. So we have a property called data, which is an array of books. That should be books. Also need the colon there after the data. Our next file we need to create is our book list factory class. Select Swift file, click on next, type in book list factory, and now we will define the factory class for creating the book list instances. So we need to type in class book list factory static function create default book list. And then this will return a book list object. And then the next thing we need to do is to create our book list variable instance. Book list equals book list. And then we type in book list.data equals open bracket, close bracket. So here we will apply our book data elements to our array. I think I have some on the clipboard. Yeah, let me do it again. Book list.data. So this array was like taken from the previous tutorial that we've done. So I'm just reusing it. And then we need to return a list of books to the caller. So this function, this static function, creates our default book list. So now we create another function to create a classic book list that contains different types of books. So what we will do, we can copy between lines 11 and 22. Paste it there. Rename this function to be classic. Create classic book list. And then for the name parameter, we'll just enter a new book, which is 1984. George Orwell. For the image name, no image. For the price, just do $10.99 or any price that you want. For the next book, just enter Brave New World. Aldous Huxley for the author name. For the image name, just type in no image. The price, $11.99. For the third book, just enter Fahrenheit 451. For the author name, Ray Bradbury. For the image name, no image. For the price, £13.99. For the fourth book, just enter Animal Farm. George Orwell, no image, and the price, just make it $8.99. And then we can just create our science fiction book list function. So the factory, as you can see at the moment, it's able to create a default book list and a classic book list, and now we're creating a science fiction book list within the factory. Create science fiction book list. So for the name, just enter June. Frank Herbert. No image. The price $15.99. We just had 3 books in this one and not 4. Just to shorten the tutorial a little bit. So for the second book, just enter Foundation. The author's name is Isaac Asimov. The price is $12.99. For the final book, just enter Snow Crash. Neil Stevenson. Spelled Stevenson incorrectly, so there's Stephenson. No image, and $13.99. I'll just compile it. Just compiling at the moment. In next week's tutorial, we will implement the content view. So the content view calls the factory methods of the book list and then populates the list on the content view with the books to be displayed to the user. So that's for next week's tutorial. In this tutorial, we will be using the factory pattern to display a list of books. The factory pattern is like a recipe book for creating objects. Instead of making objects directly in your code, you follow a recipe from the factory. This makes it easier to change how objects are made without having to rewrite a lot of the code. So this is the example we'll be using. So the user can select from a default list of books by clicking on the default books button, or classic books, or sci-fi books. And the functionality is achieved by using the factory pattern. We will now call our factory methods from our content view. Within your content view, add the following. At state, private bar books equals book list, factory dot create factory, and then create default book list. The purpose of that line is to create an instance of the book list so that we can use the methods within the book list factory class. Next thing we need to do is, after lines 14, enter the following. We can delete the text element, navigation, view, vstack, list, books, data, book in. So we're looping through the data collection, the data property of the books object. And then for each element of the book, we will display the image name and the name of the book and the author's name of the book. But now we are just entering or creating the HStack, alignment, top spacing 10, image. So to display the book cover, we use an image element to display the image name. Dot resizable, frame width 80 and height 80. Let's just set the height to 80. Corner radius is 8. Vstack, leading spacing 5. Text book to display the book name. Dot font title to style the book name within the text element. Dot font weight. Dot bold. Text book author. Dot font dot subheading. Subheadline. Spacer. And then we also include the book price. As a headline. Foreground color. Dot orange. After lines 39, just add some vertical padding. That's 5 pixels. And then the next thing we need to do after line 42 is to add a navigation bar title. Just call it book list, display mode, large, list style, plain, list style. So the plain list style is just used for a simpler look for the list. Now we create another H-stack. The purpose of this H-stack is to include our 3 buttons, such as default books, classic books, or sci-fi books, as shown earlier. Button, action, I think something happened with the recording there. So it's button, action, books equals book list factory dot create default book list. And then for our caption, that will be called default books dot font dot title 2 dot padding dot background, which is blue, a blue background for the button, dot foreground color is white. So the caption for the button text will be white. Dot corner radius 10. And then to make sure that all of the buttons are the same size, we use max width. And then set it to infinity. And then we create our next button. So to create our next button, it's similar to the previous button. We can just copy and paste what we've done. And then we just change the background and the foreground and the text element for that button. So we can copy between lines 48 and 58. And then we just paste it anywhere after lines 58. And then for the button action, the method we want to be called is create classic book list. And then the title for the text element should be classic books. The background should be green for the background color. Foreground color is white, that stays the same. And then the next thing we need to do is to create our final button. So we do that after line 70. And for the button action, the method we want to call within our factory is create science fiction book list, and the caption for the text should be sci-fi books. The background color should be purple. And the foreground color should be white. And then we need to add some padding. We add the padding after lines 83. Now I just compile it. It's compiled. And also you need to add the images for your book. You just add it to your assets, which is here. Just drag it over to your assets. And the reason why I didn't show you how to do that part, because that's not the aim of the tutorial. The aim of the tutorial is to create the factory pattern. Because I've done this in similar tutorials of how to add images or files to your assets. But if you need help how to do it, just message me on YouTube. So now I'll just run the application to see if it works or not. But the padding doesn't look too good. It looks a bit squashed to me. For the height, so the padding for the height, let's change that to 120 to see if that helps a bit. Yeah, that looks much neater. So now you can see that by default it displays the default books. You can see, so if I click on the classic books, the list will change to display classic books from the factory. As you can see, it displays the classic books, but those books, they have no images. And then to display the sci-fi books, just click on sci-fi button. And as you can see, it displays the sci-fi books, but with no images. So you can always add your images later if you want to, but really all of the data should be coming from an API. And where you would add your images is within your book list factory, which is here. So you just create your, or assign your image name. Just say if it was like a cartoon, Bugs Bunny or something, just type in Bugs Bunny there. And then you'd have your image here that relates to that record, Bugs Bunny. And that's the end of the tutorial. And if it helped you in any way, please comment, like and subscribe. Thank you for joining us. If you found this tutorial helpful, please comment, like and subscribe. See you next week.